everybody, for tonight's BeFit Food fireside discussion, and welcome back to some, I'm sure. My name is Julian, and I'm the Ventures Manager here at VentureCrowd. For those that don't know, VentureCrowd is a digital investment platform that specializes in alternative asset investments, specifically venture capital and property development opportunities made available to retail and wholesale investors. We have 73,000 registered members who have invested over $300 million on the platform. BeFit Food is Australia's leading doctor and dietitian designed, scientifically formulated, healthy, home-delivered meals company specializing in health improvement and weight management. The company delivers thousands of meals per week to Australian households, and it also distributes thousands more through its retailer network. BeFit Food's vision is to change the health of Australia one bite at a time by providing real-world alternative to synthetic diet shakes and bars industry. If you want to find out more information, please visit the VentureCrowd website and deal page at any time during tonight's discussion or at any time you feel like it. The current level of interest is amazing. We have over 630 EOIs and $1.6 million in expressions of interest so far. So if you have registered to invest in BeFit Food, make sure you act fast and don't miss out, as some of these deals do close within a matter of hours. Do remember that you can also ask questions at any point during the fireside chat tonight by using the Q&A chat box at the bottom. I'll be attending to that one as Beck and Kate have a discussion. So now I'd like to introduce our panelists for this evening. Hosting tonight, I have Rebecca Blake, VentureCrowd's compliance manager and investor relations go-to. Starting her career at Westpac, she trained in media, the arts, and finance. She uses her diverse skills to facilitate customer outcomes at VentureCrowd every day. And Rebecca is also joined by Kate Save from BeFit Food. Kate is a clinical dietitian and successful entrepreneur. Kate founded BeFit Food to offer a convenient whole food solution to health and weight management. So that's it for the intros. I'll hand over to Rebecca.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Julian, and welcome everyone. My name is Rebecca, and of course we're joined by Kate Save from BeFit Food. We've already had a webinar previously, just a couple of weeks ago, where Stephen Marbani, our CEO, talked through a lot of detail in regards to the food tech sector and the opportunities in this particular space. So I'm not going to cover any of that tonight. I mean, really, we've had some really juicy questions from investors and potential investors over the last couple of weeks with BeFit Foods EOI. So I really prefer, and of course you can watch that at venturecrowd.com.au, just click on the BeFit Foods page under the Ventures dropdown. But really, I'd like to spend the time that we have together tonight getting into your questions and also giving you as much time with Kate as possible, because I think we all know with founders, there's a particular drive and energy and reason and passion as to why they're in this particular space and why they're going for a funding round. So I think we can skip all the detail on food tech and just get straight to Kate. So Kate, thank you very much for joining us this evening.
Oh, thank you for having me. I'm just going to share my screen here, and I'd love to just go through a little bit about the background of BeFit Food and my personal story, because I guess at the end of the day, the investments in the business, but it's also in the vision, the team, and I guess our founding relationships with this business and how we see it growing. So who am I? And I won't go into too much detail. You've already done a great introduction: dietitian, exercise physiologist, diabetes educator, done lots and lots of study. I've also done my MBA in business and a mother of two. So I guess with the problem, it's very easy to see, particularly in Australia, and not just in Australia, but globally, that roughly 67% of the population are overweight or obese. And when you start to look at the size of this problem, it's not the weight on its own that is a problem. It is actually the health conditions that it causes, or chronic health conditions that are linked to our lifestyle. And unfortunately, these conditions don't manifest straight away, so we don't realize the connection between this excess weight over years quickly. If we did, we'd make changes and reverse it. But because a lot of these conditions like heart disease, cancer, diabetes, they can take up to 20 years to manifest. So the damage is actually being done. Now, the quickest way to really prevent further damage is to change your lifestyle as quickly as you can. And I think seeing this problem for me made it so crucial to be able to give people a solution that if they were motivated and willing to change, that their efforts would actually equal some sort of reward. And I think that a lot of the meal companies, the weight loss programs, the services out there, we tend to find that the solutions are so long term that the results are very slow. People become unmotivated, and sometimes too the condition is actually worsening before it gets better. Why I strongly believe this is because of my own personal journey. From the age of 18 months old until I was 19, I was hospitalized quite often with these horrible tummy aches. And it wasn't until I was 19 that I guess I started to really do a lot of investigation myself. And that was because the first 8 years of my life, I went to every health professional, every doctor, had every test that was available back in the, give away my age, 1980s, 1990s, and they couldn't find anything. So my parents then really didn't know what to do. So when I got sick, they just sent me away for 1 to 2 weeks to stay with my grandparents until I could stand up again, eat again, and not be crunched over in pain. But once you're a young adult, you've got your license, you're going to uni, you can't do that on the Monash Freeway. You have to be able to keep going in life. And that's why it was so crucial for me to find out. And I've been told my whole life that it must be something that you're eating. And so I became fascinated with food, wondering what it was that was making me so chronically unwell. And it never seemed to be food to me. So the short of it was, it turned out to be what they thought was a tumor in my bile duct, emergency surgery. And they told me that if I hadn't have had the surgery, and it ended up being a couple of days before my 20th birthday, that I wouldn't have lived to 30. So I feel like I live on borrowed time now, but my impact that I want to leave on the world is really helping other people to understand that food can be that first medicine. Food is something that can make you feel well. Very cliche to that first picture of me being a small entrepreneur at the age of 4 or 5 at the front of my parents' house selling lollies. But hey, I was looking to make $1 to fund my university and my 4 degrees. So that led me into a career to study as a dietitian, exercise physiologist, and diabetes educator. And people would ask, why would you do that many degrees? It just seems ridiculous. And I did masters on top of that. It was because the more that I studied and the more that I learnt, the more that I realized I didn't know, and the questions that I had, nobody could answer. And I wanted to find the answers to those questions. And what became so discerning to me was that most of my questions were, why aren't we treating these conditions with change of diet or exercise? And why are we putting people on pills that cause damage over time? They don't fix a problem. They actually hide the symptoms so people don't know that it's worsening. And then they just keep upping the dose to hide the symptoms. And that absolutely bamboozled me, because I think we live in this false economy of health, thinking that, oh, if we've got a blood pressure problem, I just take a pill and that's controlled, and I don't actually need to do anything about it because the medicine fixed it. And that's not the case. Food should be the first medicine. You should be looking to improve health and chronic health conditions, whatever that might be, with food first. And then the medication's there to support you, but not to solve the underlying problem. I started my first business, a dietitian business, which we grew with a gym to 23 staff. And after around 9 years in that business, I had my first child and sold half of the business, the gym side of it and the personal training, to one of Australia's leading exercise physiology companies. And they're still going very strong today. And then the dietitian part of the business expanded into 10 different medical centres, 3 private hospitals. And from there, one of those clinics was working with Melbourne Bariatrics, which is bariatric surgery. And my passion then became to change the way that bariatric surgery the setup or the procedure prior to the surgery was done, because the key with weight loss surgery is shrinking the liver before the surgery to ensure that when they do the surgery to operate on the stomach, that they can actually access it without harm. Now, the way to shrink it was traditional bars and shakes diets, or what they call a VLCD, a very low calorie diet, such as a slimming shake. I'm not going to name any brands. I didn't agree with that. They were synthetic, they were chocolate flavored, and they were drinks. They weren't food at the end of the day. I saw them as poor role modeling. I saw them as a poor substitute for long-term health and behavior change. I felt like we weren't educating the person on how to keep the weight off once they'd had surgery. And surgery is actually not a magic pill. Just because you cut it out or you restrict it doesn't mean that weight won't come back again. And the studies are showing it does come back, 50% of that weight at around 5 years. So the longer term vision for me was, how do we get people to actually go on a journey where they can get healthier, maybe lose the dangerous, hazardous weight, but keep it off as well. And hence my thought was, let's start here. Let's start with these very low calorie diets, but do a real food, whole food alternative that does shrink the liver, that does help them lose 5 to 25 kilos in the first sort of 2 to 12 weeks, motivates them and makes them feel good. But they've got the tools and the education to keep doing that for the rest of their life. It's nothing magic about it. And what we found is people were coming, and some of them backed out of their weight loss surgery because they felt that they were so empowered with the diet and the food that they could do this by themselves, and maybe they didn't need the surgery. And some people would go for surgery. So we got our first little kitchen, and we outgrew that after we had sort of 5 staff. Then we purchased a fish and chip shop, a commercial kitchen for $1, and we converted that into a bigger space. That enabled us to grow the business quite significantly. But what I underestimated was the demand that was actually coming through the door. Now, this kitchen space was a dark kitchen, so it meant that we blacked it out. We only sold online. You couldn't come in through the door. But because the people in the street, and this is a very small suburb, not so small now, but an outer suburb called Somerville, we picked this location to have this hideaway kitchen that no one would find, but they could smell the food. And as you can see in the picture, there's a bit of the Commonwealth Bank. Across the road was the NAB. All the staff would come every day trying to buy food. The chefs threatened to quit if someone didn't serve them and sell them some food, because they stopped production basically. So I went there one day, blocked out this little area and started selling food. And we realized people were actually looking not for weight loss surgery food, for healthy food that was convenient, that made a difference in their life, that made them feel better. And the side effect of that, just 2 weeks on the program, on average, our customers actually report 5.89 kilos of average weight loss in 14 days. So the weight loss was unbelievable, but it was actually using whole foods, 4 to 12 veggies, high protein, low carb, wholemeal beef lasagnas, Italian beef meatballs, not a synthetic chocolate shake or a chewable mini protein bar. So then the next thing to scale up the business, I decided, well, we need to be able to market to a wider audience. How do we do that? I thought, we can't go to the banks. We're too early. We'll go on Shark Tank. I realize now that that is not normal thinking, but I'd obviously seen the promos and I thought, this looks great. So my goal was to go on to Shark Tank to actually seek Janine Ellis as an investor, and purely because, yes, the money was going to be beneficial, but having a mentor in this space, and particularly a female who also had children, who also had a passion for food, how do you scale something from this idea of wanting to help people eat better? And Janine would always say that her goal was to help people eat more fruit. My goal was for people to eat more well-balanced, smaller portioned meals. So the problem we were solving was really more about taking the guesswork out of healthy eating and helping people actually have a meal that gave them results. So yes, it's convenient, but it solved their problems, their chronic health conditions, their weight problems. And it wasn't inaccessible, and it wasn't like a magic pill. It was a more lifestyle solution. So we started trademarking some of these terms, so such as food as the first medicine and real food, fast results. carb to protein ratio. And what we created was what we call a building block. So each meal is it's formulated scientifically, basically, with the right amounts of protein, the right amounts of carbs, the right amounts of calories, and you build those meals over a day to get your results. So whether you're male, female, a child, an adult, a pediatric, geriatric, the meals can do no harm. They're simply 4 to 12 veggies, protein of some source, some healthy fats, herbs and spices. So anybody can eat them. It's just how many meals someone needs to achieve their goals. So obviously, if we're talking about a very active male, he may need 10 meals a day just to maintain weight. And if he's going to the gym as well, he might need more than that. But if we've got an overweight male, he might go on a Be Fit Man program and have 4 meals a day, 2 protein snacks, and lose that 5.89 kilos in 2 weeks, and even more than that. So unfortunately for the females watching out there, men actually lose weight at about 30% higher rate than females. They have a 30% higher lean body mass generally, which increases their metabolism. So for females, they generally need to have around the 3 small meals a day and the 2 protein snacks. So we wanted to provide it all. And here's a snapshot of the journey that I've just taken you on. And really, it was the founding kitchen, moving to our own space, going on Shark Tank, getting that national exposure. We grew 1,500% overnight, which then really meant that my team had to grow to support this business growth. And you cannot imagine the impact of 5 minutes on national television and what that did for us. So literally, out of the 685,000 viewers, we had 60,000 of those viewers trying to add to cart within 5 minutes. They'd never seen that there was a whole food solution that delivered not just weight results, but health change results. So our team went from 5 people to 63 people in just 4 weeks. So we had this huge growth, and then it was about building the systems for long-term business growth. And that's what we spent 2 years doing. So we had a pretty painful 2 years, as you can imagine, when a business scales that quickly. You get the revenue, but you don't have the systems, the people, the processes in place. So we kept growing, we kept building, and we found that happy place. And then I guess what was great for the team is we won these amazing awards, and that really gave them the praise for putting in that hard work and actually seeing it pay off. We won the Telstra Business of the Year award in 2019, and again last year in 2022 for championing health, and a few other bits and pieces. But then we also scaled up our production and our home delivery nationally. So we delivered to 70% of Australian postcodes. And last year we got our first commercial contract with Woolworths into 750 stores. They renewed our contract this year, so we're staying in the 750 Woolworths stores. So we've got a range of around 3 meals in every store, which is fantastic. And now we're looking to find supporters really to build the business and the marketing again. So as I mentioned, our product portfolio, we've got around 70 different products, but we offer breakfast, lunch, dinner, and snacks. So we want to take all the guesswork out, all the hassle out, and all you need to do is clear out the fridge, the pantry, the freezer, and eat this food 3 to 5 times a day, depending on what the dietitian recommends. So that's something that makes us quite different as well. Our dietitian services. So we actually provide complimentary dietitian services for anyone wanting to use a program, because we know they'll get the best results if they've spoken to someone and we've tailored that program to their needs. And then they can choose from any of the 70 products to suit their tastes, their allergies. We've got gluten-free meals, all sorts of things. And it has been designed in a way that the food can do no harm. It is to improve health. Lots of herbs and spices and veggies and lean protein and healthy food. Where the business is to go in the future is really in this health improvement space. We know that we can formulate meals, and we have, for putting diabetes, type 2 diabetes, into remission. We've got a small clinical trial where we actually looked at 10 patients with type 2 diabetes, and within 7 days, the overall impact of their blood sugars was coming down 90%, which showed that it can be a treatment for type 2 diabetes. And we have so many customers that have left incredible reviews and testimonials about how it's helped with their blood pressure, their cholesterol, their diabetes, let alone just weight loss alone. But even more importantly, things like giving them more energy, helping them sleep, changing their mood. We know that the gut and the brain is connected, and it's important to nourish the gut to get a better brain health. What we've done, yeah.
Hey, can I ask you, sorry, I mean, you've just given an amazing recap on BeFit Food, but before we dive into the detailed supplies, I suppose, I just, for investors that are on this call and have either invested currently or are looking at investing, just before we jump to that next slide, I just wanted to cover off, I suppose, on your growth journey and the revenue side of things.
Yes.
Yeah, can we talk about, I suppose, your revenue since starting, and then I suppose how that links in then with where you are in Woolworths, Chemist, IGA, and your customer loyalty piece?
Yes, so like every business, we start at zero, and well, not every business, but we certainly did start at zero, and we had this slower growth, which is really not slow in hindsight, you know, going from sort of $0 to our first year around 90,000, 300,000, around 500,000, 600,000, then to 4.5 million. And that was prior to Shark Tank, then up to $8 million. And then with COVID, we actually found it suffocated us a little bit because we weren't talking about rapid weight loss in Victoria, where 70% of people are locked down. And that was us as well. And that was all of our staff. So we were talking about, you know, eating well, but getting back on the plan when we come out of lockdown. We just never came out of lockdown, unfortunately. We had a couple of moments. And so we actually saw a bit of a decline in revenue over that period to 7 million and then 6 million. However, we held steady when we came out, and we actually had a profitable year last year at 6 million. So what we were able to do in that change was, even though revenue was lower than it was slightly the previous year, we actually were able to make it profitable because we were able to put systems and processes in place, and a lot more time went into our building a new website, which unfortunately didn't end up being the right platform for us. We're back to square one. We're building it. Well, we want to build a new website. That's part of this capital raise. And also, I guess, putting those systems and procedures and product development in place so that we now have these partnerships with the NDIS. We've 5 years we've invested with Deakin University on a gut microbiome study, which should be published hopefully this year. And that all comes down to how big the journal is. We potentially will go in a global worldwide journal because what they are finding with our study, and all I can say is we've got a positive impact on the gut microbiome. It will be absolutely game changing for this space, and they're making the connections to mental health improvement as well. But this science that we've invested in over the years gives us something that we can then use that the other companies don't have, and the relationship building as well. Getting into Coles or Woolies or any of the big chains, you don't do that in a year generally. It takes a few years of really building relationships and proving that model. And now that we're in our second year, we know that we're going really strong. We've also branched out into pharmacy. And for me, because food is the first medicine, I see that the pharmacy place is somewhere where people are really, there's a duty of care to help people to have better health. They're going there with sickness and they want wellness. So supplying medication without an alternative with food as the first medicine just doesn't sit well with me. And that's a change that we're seeing in the industry with players like the Priceline concept stores going really strong for us. We're in a handful of Terry White Chem Marts, a handful of the whole life pharmacies, and now branching out into more and more Chemist Warehouse stores too. And that's just a whole different play. We are the only home delivered or ready-made meals in that space, and it's game changing.
It seems to me, Kate, like you have formed, over your time as founding, you've formed relationships with private, public and government. You know, I suppose they're really the three pillars of a founding industry, and now you're just looking essentially for the marketing piece. Would that be correct? And can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I think the hardest part in our industry at the moment is with the changes in the regulations with Facebook and Google, and I'm sure any other business people on the call have possibly noticed this, is you can't target your direct market when you're in health. You cannot talk about weight loss. You cannot talk about diabetes or health improvement or health change. You can't say doctor and dietitian designed or scientifically formulated. So all the things we are and all the people that we want to target are no longer targetable. Whereas going back a few years before the regulations changed, you could target weight loss, you could target all these different things, and we could find our customer. We could target diabetes or target NDIS, and that's been made very, very difficult. So now with digital media alone, we invest in that heavily every single month. It gives back a little bit less return because it's getting harder to find your customer. What we know really works for us, though, is anything above the line. So the PR that we get, the media attention. I'm an expert speaker on a lot of different, whether it's TV networks, in the media, lots of publications, and that really works strongly for us because as an advocate for health, they come to me for advice. I'm not spruiking BeFit Food, but they will find a recipe or they'll find a link or they'll find something that will tie it back to the brand. And I think our next really exciting investment is going into being part of a primetime television show with a little cameo about exactly what we're doing here with transformation journeys. And now we're about to build this huge digital channel all around transformations and real life transformations. None of this Biggest Loser, lock you away in a home and flog you to death type stuff. We mean the real life journey, every person watching, the people on the couch. How do we get them to transform? And anybody can do it. It's not expensive. It's the cheapest form of weight loss you can get when you look at costs per kilo, other than surgery, which can be quite dangerous, risky, and all the other reasons that you might not want to go down that path. And perhaps you've only got 5 to 10 kilos to lose. So we've tapped into a niche that is not a small market. It's 67% of the Australian adult population that is overweight or obese. And whether or not they're ready for it or they want it yet, we're here waiting. And we've partnered with all of these different private health insurance funds for rebates on our weight loss and weight management programs now, like your NABs and your Medibank. We'd love to be part with Medicare. That's a future goal, to be on the PBS there.
That's the next government section you can go after, Kate.
Well, that's exactly it, because we know cost per kilo, it is the cheapest way to get weight loss. And we know that the weight loss doesn't come with a negative side effect, such as killing off your gut microbiome, poor habit forming, drinking your calories, or synthetic addiction to sweet, sugary drinks. So it comes with eating more vegetables, lean proteins, learning portion control, and having all your recommended salads and extras unlimited through the day. So it's the habit forming, I think, that's really important.
Well, let's dive in a little bit to your valuation. So how did you land on 15 million pre-money valuation, and what kind of multiples are you expecting down that line as you grow?
Yes, so we used a revenue model for our valuation, and we've done a lot of the research, as have VentureCrowd with us as well, on what a fair valuation would be. And what we hold our hand on our heart with is our IP and the relationships we've built, the partnerships, the contracts in place. They will all grow. We've seeded those over many, many years, and it is the marketing that is the tip of the iceberg to really help fruit those relationships and let people know we exist. Without that TV exposure, we're not going to show up number one on Google, because you've got the bigger companies spending 20 million a year on their marketing, and we're spending a few $100,000. We're just not going to be seen at those same levels unless we get these bigger opportunities to be in front of people.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Kate. I suppose the next question that investors have asked, and they've asked us over this 2 weeks since our last webinar with you, in regards to your capital raising and what we're doing together, how will you be putting investors' funds to work to actually support your growth? I know you've mentioned a little bit about marketing, but could you extrapolate on that?
Yeah, so we've literally done a line by line plan of how we will spend every single dollar, what company we're spending it with and what that revenue return is expected to be over a 2-year period. Now, it obviously depends on how much we raise, but we know that these investments in these areas are deeply needed. So very simple things like EDM campaigns or email campaigns that have certain triggers for certain customers at certain levels of programs that they're using, or times that they haven't reordered from, or when they've registered, to get conversion rates. So those things are really important. And the number one thing is actually having a website that generates subscription revenue. So a current website, because it's 5 years old, doesn't have the capability to actually do $1 of subscription. Now, our competitors, 100% of our competitors, do somewhere between 30 to 70% on average of their revenue through subscription, and some of them do 100% subscription only. We do not have $1 of that revenue, and that is the biggest opportunity for us, because we actually get complaints from customers saying, can't you just give me what I had last week? Why do I need to get on an order? We don't have that button. We don't have that yet. We tried to build it. We built it on the wrong platform and it failed. Now we know how to do it. We're building a very simple site, the same as what we have, a Shopify site, but a 2.0 version. That 5 years ago, there wasn't these plugins where you could do the subscription. Now there is, and there's a few more complexities to it. Any IT people that are watching this would go, oh, it's simple, but we bundle things, remember, based on packages and outcomes as opposed to dollars. We need people to have choice whether they want the Asian fish or the Italian beef meatballs, and what breakfast, what snacks they want, how many meals. So there's a bit of complexity, but it's certainly something that technology software can do now, and we need to take that step quickly to maximize those returns. Apart from that, I mentioned the digital strategy. So creating with one of Australia's best production companies. They make many of the well-known television shows, so I can't give away too much. So we've gone into a partnership with them to create our own digital channel and to do this cameo on national TV.
Thank you very much, Kate. Kate, you can stop sharing your screen if you like.
Yeah.
We can get back into your presentation yet, but I think investors will want to hear from you and see your face. And also, to anyone that's online and you do have a question, the little question pane is just down the bottom of your screen in the Zoom webinar tab. Please feel free to add them in and we will address them. We've just got a couple more questions left. I wanted to ask you, Kate, about crowdfunding, and basically, we thought we'd provide a quick overview of how crowdfunding works. But before we do that, can you share a little bit about why you decided to do a retail crowdfunding campaign for BeFit Foods?
The number one reason behind it is because our customers are so loyal and they're such big brand advocates. We know that the very best referral that we get is a word of mouth referral. And that is how the business grew at the start. The moment that we had Shark Tank, customers found out about us, but the growth that happened beyond that doubled the size of the business in a matter of 12 months was all word of mouth. We didn't have any sophisticated marketing then. We started with a team of 5 and we grew to 63, and we just hadn't set those things up. It was all grown through that word of mouth, and results speak for themselves. But what is even more important than that is that the product over time actually continues to give improvements. It doesn't end after your first program when you lose your first 5 kilos. People keep coming back to it, and that loyalty is really important. So crowdfunding for us, we knew that our customers would support us. I guess over the years, I've had many conversations with lots of different investors, and picking one strategic partner is very difficult because everyone has different values, and our values are health and outcomes first and our customers first. And being able to share that with different investors, I think, is important so that we never get skewed to the wrong direction, that we can stay on our vision, our trajectory to actually changing the health of Australia.
Because Kate, I read somewhere that your repeat customer base is 57%. Is that right?
That's right. Yeah. So 57% of customers return purchase with us. And what we've seen that has improved dramatically over the years is that lifetime value of the customer. And what we've seen per year, the spend per year is increasing unbelievably, well beyond what we really imagined. So we market that people come to us 4 times a year for a seasonal metabolism reset. So get your 5 to 10 kilos off, then we educate you with dietitian support to keep that weight off. But we know that people's habits change and bad habits creep back in around 60 to 90 days. So the goal is that seasonal reset, shrink the liver, get the metabolism working, kick off those extra kilos and come back 4 times a year. What we've found though is our customers on average are coming around 6 times a year in the last 12 months. And if we exclude new customers that have only shopped 1 time, on average, those customers are shopping over 12 times a year with us. So they might as well be on a monthly subscription, which is something we don't have. And we're missing that business because it's a hard effort to go to a website, place an order, put all your details in again, and then to remember to do that every how often they're shopping, or maybe they want to do 6 weeks in a row because they've got a big event. It could be a 50th, it could be a wedding, it could be prior to having, maybe it's orthopedic surgery. We had a guy whose surgeon said, if you need new knees, you need to get 20 kilos off. So he came to us, we got the 20 kilos off and he had his knee surgery. So it's all different reasons, but that would make it so much easier for people, and that loyalty is there.
Absolutely. And certainly we've seen at VentureCrowd, a crowdfunding campaign with our crowdfunding license is a great way to get people that are loyal to a business where you have a loyal customer base to actually own a part of the business. They love your product. The next part is they love your business. Obviously, the next part is to own a portion of that particular business. There's been a couple of questions that have come in. We will get to those in just a minute, but I just want to cover off, I suppose, really briefly for investors that are on the call in regards to what equity crowdfunding actually is. So it's a way basically for businesses, BeFit Foods, in this case, to raise capital from the crowd of people in exchange for shares in your company, Kate. So this means that as an investor, you're buying a portion of Kate's company, you become a shareholder. So for investors that are looking at equity crowdfunding, the process is actually pretty straightforward. It's basically find a project that you're interested in from a platform. VentureCrowd is one of those platforms, and BeFit Foods is one of the opportunities on that platform. Obviously, you have to understand the offer. That's why you're here tonight or listening to this particular recording, and all of the details are outlined in the particular offer. Make an investment. So once you find a company that you align with, in this case, Kate's, and BeFit Foods, you can make an investment directly on the platform. So you'll be guided through those steps. And then, of course, you receive your shares and your updates. So after your investment is made, you receive your shares as a shareholder. You, of course, have certain rights, and all of those are outlined in the particular investment contract. Julian, I wanted to just throw over to you for any questions that have come through from the panel. Are there a few that you would like to read out and have Kate answer?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll throw one out there, Kate. And so one of the anonymous attendees has asked, is there a collaboration with Diabetes Australia? Their understanding is that there is funding available through the home care packages through the Commonwealth. So is this funding available for diabetic patients too?
So we've done a partnership with Diabetes Victoria, but that is a not-for-profit organisation. So our partnership is to support them to be able to give their members better access to better things that can help improve their health. So we do have a partnership with them, but that partnership enables people that are members to get a small discount. And also for the organisation, we give them a kickback from their members too, to support them to continue to do the great job that they're doing. Yes, there is funding through home care. So you get 70% of the cost of the meals funded through home care, and you get 80% of the cost of the meals funded through the NDIS. So joining the dots and making all that work is really up to your care plan managers.
Okay, great. And then the next one is, and maybe sort of caveat this at the start, right? Like Kate and BeFit I guess, is an investment opportunity. It's a fast growing, scaling business. And therefore, in the, I guess, private markets, the expected return on investment is always sort of becoming more and more clear, the more history and the more growth of that company secures, and the more that it de-risks the business as it grows. So it's always a hard one to put your finger on, and that is the nature of venture investments. If it was as forecastable as the public markets, this industry simply wouldn't exist. So with that caveat, Kate, what is the expected return on investment for investors?
Yeah, so what we're looking at in terms of this raise and the growth, so the projections are in the CSF document as well. However, you'll find the year-on-year EBITDA growth at the bottom, which is probably the most important part. So taking the revenue up in the first year to give an EBITDA return of around 5%. Let me just get my table up in front of me, so I'm quoting the right numbers there. And I think what we're finding that is the investors that we've been speaking to as well, it's really not just about that EBITDA in the first year, it's how that money is being reinvested and how it's growing the returns over time. Because I guess the goal of this is really the large exit at the end. Who are we going to sell to, and what's that return going to be? So it's not about the short-term investment. It's not about getting the money out in the next 1 to 2 years. It's really about making sure that we can exit very successfully in whether that be 3 to 10 years. And that depends on how quickly we grow and how that opportunity grows. So that EBITDA return is 5% on the first year as a goal, so around a $400,000 profit, around 10% the year after at about 1.5 million. And in 2026, this is where we can see things really starting to compound. And that is because of having the subscription platform in place, the commercial contracts in place, and the growth into more and more different pharmacies, different supermarkets, but also that online presence and online growth, which is going to come down to building these different channels where we can educate people. It's not about selling to people. It's about educating them, letting them know that we exist, the problems that we can help them with. They come looking for us, but if they don't know we exist, we don't get that growth. So that 2026 would be around a 15% EBITDA at around $3.5 million. So that growth is large, but we know we've seen that in the past. We have absolutely done this in the past, and it takes that marketing to get it there. It doesn't grow without telling people that it exists. You need to onboard new customers every year to see that growth. And if we give them a good experience, which we have a very good track history of doing, and year on year, that customer loyalty, the number of times they shop, the number of people they refer is growing. So we believe that we can achieve this.
Yeah, great. And as I said, it's a I guess, we're entrusting Kate and her team to get a return on investment within the business, keep the capital within the business so it can grow and become much more valuable. So at a point of exit or acquisition, it's at some point in the future, that is when everyone will be sort of looking back at the numbers and seeing what the outcome was. So thanks for that, Kate. Looks like we've got one more that's just slipped in, and it's talking about your website. So you're expecting to have a new website completed, enabling subscriptions. What's the kind of the time frame, right? Tech builds are all notoriously all over the place with their timeline. But I'm sure obviously you're working probably with an outsourced provider to build this up for yourself. 12, 24 months.
This will be our 4th website, and the learnings that I've taken away from this are grand. Let's start with a very simple website this time. Let's not try and build the Ben-Hur, which is what we did on the 4th website, and it failed dismally because there was too much going on. It was more than what we needed to do the simple job we need, which is for people to transact on site. They either transact once, weekly, fortnightly, or monthly. That is all we need. And we built way more, way bigger, way more expensive, and it just was beyond what we needed. So we're going to build a simple site. I won't lie, I still think it will take up to 12 months because our first simple site took that long, and the ones prior to that as well. So I would say it would take 12 months to do it well, but the groundwork has been done on the previous site. There needs to be a little bit more groundwork to do a different platform. We chose a wrong platform last time, and we did a headless site. For anyone who's in IT, you'll understand what this means, but for anyone else, headless just basically means unless you're an IT guru, nothing exists in the back of the website, and you need to build every little thing from scratch. And unless you're Telstra and you have thousands of people working on it every day, you're never going to finish it.
There you go. But yeah, I mean, as you say, I mean, you know, your online platform at the moment works great. You're delivering thousands of meals per week at the moment.
Yeah.
And while that is an absolutely sort of, I guess, one of the keys to scaling, there's certainly many other areas that you guys are kicking goals in. And once that does come online, the growth should be just, again, another sort of step change.
Yeah, and one more caveat with the website is we're doing well and succeeding on a website that is 4 years old, that was actually built as a minimum viable product. It was an MVP. It was not supposed to be something we were running on, and we've been stuck on this platform because the iterations since just haven't been right. We know what we need to do this time. We're going to make it super simple, and the good thing is it'll be less expensive than the last site too, because we know what we need to do and we're not going to overcomplicate it. And because, as I mentioned earlier, technology is advanced, there's all these apps and plugins that can do half the work for us at very little cost. We don't need to build them from scratch.
Yeah, the glory of other entrepreneurs and developing their no-code platforms that enable you to do what you need to do. It's a great ecosystem. Well, it looks like that's it from a Q&A perspective. So I might just throw back to Rebecca to wrap us up.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Julian. And thank you, Kate, for that detailed information. Of course, there's a lot more information if you head to the link that I just shared on the chat pane, which is BeFit Foods EOI. That takes you to our website. You can have a look at the detailed numbers inside that CSF offer document. Of course, this investment is open to everyone, retail and wholesale investors. That's the beauty. We have expressions of interest at $250, we have expressions of interest of $200,000. So we do expect this raise to gather momentum as it's doing and also close fast once it's particularly open. So please put your details in there. Thank you very much, Kate, for attending. Thank you very much, Julian, also for hosting. Of course, you can go back to our website, venturecrowd.com.au, if you'd like to take an investment in BeFit Foods. We'll be sending out the recording of this webinar so you can share it with anyone that missed out on attending and may be interested in investing. And of course, you can also post your questions on the particular deal page just by following that link. Once it's opened, of course, that'll be answered by our team or Kate herself or the company, and you can also feel free to give us a call as well. Thanks so much, Kate, for all your input. We really appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you, everyone, for your time.
Thanks all, and have a great night. Bye for now.
Bye.